Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for the kickoff of GED Day. For those of you that are unfamiliar, my name is Amy Ferrari. I'm the director of the Adult Training and Development Network, otherwise known as ATDN, and I'll be serving as your moderator today. All sessions are going to be recorded. Materials that are shared by our presenters will be made available after GED Day, so don't worry if you missed something or didn't catch a note on something. All of that will be sent to you by email. But certainly feel free to post any questions or comments that you have throughout the presentation in the chat, or unmute yourself, raise your hand. You're very welcome to participate. I am thrilled to introduce today's first session, which is about GED testing program update. Our presenter is a state relationship manager with GED Testing Service, where she provides support, guidance, and training to GED learners, educators, and administrators across 9 jurisdictions. And some of these I would love to be able to be a state relationship manager with based upon their temperature, but Bermuda, Connecticut, Florida, Kentucky, New Jersey, Ohio, Rhode Island, South Carolina, and West Virginia are among the areas that she provides support to. Before joining GED Testing Service in June of 2023, she served for 13 years as a high school equivalency diploma program manager at the Florida Department of Education, including several years as Florida's GED administrator. So please join me in welcoming Diane Vicari, and thank you, Diane, for presenting to us today.
Thank you so much, Amy. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us this morning. Just to give you a little bit more background on me, because I do have a connection to Connecticut. I grew up in Connecticut. I lived in Canton, went to Canton High School. I went off to college, came back, and I taught high school math and science at Housatonic Valley Regional High School in Falls Village. So and I still go to Connecticut every summer to Winsted, where we still have some family. So I have a great connection with Connecticut, and I hope that I can provide you with some great information today about the GED testing program. So let's go ahead and get started. We've got a lot to get through. I always end up adding too much information, so I may go through some of this quickly, but I thought it'd be nice for you to have the slides that covered all of this. Some of the main new items that I'm going to be covering, though, are the GED mobile app, our test prep coaching program, and our learning preferences assessment, which are some of our fairly new items that we have available to educators and to students to hopefully make their learning progress better and actually get them over the finish line. Quick overview of the test. I'm assuming many of you are already involved with GED, but I always like to have these for new people. Just to let you know, the test is available in English and Spanish. We do have accommodations available, and we do have a practice test called the GED Ready. Here's just the timings of the tests. And I want to point out on this screen, you'll see there's a link at the bottom of the slide. So you'll see this when you get the slides after GED Day is over. You'll have these slides and you'll be able to click and get more information. So if it's very simple information like this, if you want more information on more details about the test subjects, I've got the link there for you. So if you're new, you've got additional information that you can look at. For many of you, this is not something that you don't already know or that you haven't seen before, but I did want to include it here for you. Whoops. I think most of you know that the GED test includes more than just multiple choice, but this just gives you an idea of the different types of questions that are available on the GED test. I did want to provide you with a few Connecticut statistics because I think it gives you an idea of where you were years ago and where we are now. One thing that I like to point out is that the number of people in a state who don't have a high school diploma yet generally is much higher than what we think. This information comes from COABE, and I've got the link to it at the bottom of the screen there. But if we look at this information, the second data point is usually what I am always surprised about. We're looking at over 174,000 working age adults aged 18 to 64 without a high school credential. Now, they could be working or not working. And then the 11,793 are those who don't have a high school diploma and are unemployed. So we're looking at fairly large numbers for the size of Connecticut. So I think it's important we keep those numbers in mind, because we can reach out and help a lot more individuals if we could just find them and get them to come into your programs. This data goes back to pre-COVID, and it's starting to run out of room on the screen here, but back in 2018-19, prior to COVID, you see the number of passers was at 899 in Connecticut. And that's for the fiscal year, July 1 to June 30th, or that school year. If you take a look at last year, July 1, 24 to June 30th, 25, we're getting closer to being at that pass rate pre-COVID. So it's taken quite a few years to get back to those passing numbers. You know, we can look at why that might be happening, but there's so many variables involved with this. You know, high school students that were in high school during COVID, then dropping out and having to try for their GED diploma. So there's all kinds of things going on here. But I think the good thing is that we've seen an increase in passers. It's been slow, but it's coming back, and hopefully by next year, we'll see it back at that 899 level. I also like to give you an idea of the pass rates by subject, just so that you can have an idea of Connecticut's pass rates. We're looking again at just last school year, and you can see it's what we expect, right? That math has the lower pass rate here of all the subjects. But I think what might be surprising is that science has the highest pass rate, and that's usually why we suggest that you have your students maybe start with science, since the pass rate is higher for that subject. Of course, each individual is different, and you know your students, so you have to make that decision as to, you know, what might be the best subject for them to start with. Also wanted to give you an idea of the college ready levels. Those are those levels that are 165 or above, and the percentage of Connecticut candidates that are earning that 165 or above. And these numbers are, I think, pretty good. You know, you're looking at 10% in RLA science and social studies. And of course, the math. It's the same in every state, just so you know. It's not any different nationally as it is in Connecticut. The math seems to be the test that gives most people difficulty. Did want to include this one last data point. Since 2014, when we went to the computer-based tests, there are over 1,400 candidates in Connecticut who have passed 3 of 4 GED tests. Since they're so close, now some of these go back all the way to 2014. So we've got people out there that just never came in to finish that last test. So if you want to get involved with getting your local candidates over the finish line, you know, I can help you with some ideas for that. You've got some great people in Connecticut that have really tackled this problem, especially with math and math boot camps. So I'll be happy to help anyone who wants to take this up. I always feel bad. You know, these people have done and passed 3 of their tests. We need to get them over the finish line. So just feel free to reach out to me. You'll have my contact information at the end. Amy, do we have any questions in the chat at this point?
Not at this point, Diane. Seems pretty good.
All right, sounds good. It was a good stopping point, so I thought I'd ask.
Although as I said that, Margaret came in with a question. So she asked, how does CT compare to other states on numbers in taking the tests?
In terms of the number of people taking the test, of course, that's based on population, right? So I'm very familiar with Florida because I'm in Florida. The population of Florida is so much greater than Connecticut that the number of testers in Florida is much greater. So it really is based on population. In terms of pass rates, though, the pass rate in Connecticut is very similar to the national pass rate. So Connecticut is not far off from any of the other states. We have some states with much lower pass rates, and we have some with higher pass rates than Connecticut. So I hope that answers your questions. But if you want additional data, you can also reach out to me. I can help you. If you want some national data sent to you, I can do that for you.
And we did have a couple other questions come in as well, Diane, as you were speaking. So Cesar asked on the CT results, do we know if the PCT of passers are reflected in English and Spanish?
That's for both. Okay, so what was on the screen was all test takers, English or Spanish. We could probably pull that data and split it out again. Just let me know what you're looking for data, and I can get that data for you.
Yeah, that would probably be really interesting to see that data information just for the difference. And then Sarah asked two questions. What is an example of a hotspot question?
I would suggest, because I think you need to see it, and I don't want to go to the web because it'll mess things up. I would suggest to go to that link that I had on that page when you get this handout, and you'll be able to view what those are. We actually do show examples of those. And if you can't find it, again, email me and I'll send it to you. I think you need to see it to understand exactly what it is.
And then she also asked, will the test ever be offered in any other languages?
Don't expect the test to be offered in any other language other than Spanish and English. We have, well, I shouldn't say that. Today with AI and the ability to translate, who knows, in the, distant future, I don't see anything in the recent, more in the next couple of years that happening. I think there's a lot to be said for that. I know that when I talk about our AI tutor in the app, it's available in many languages. So there is the opportunity to use AI for that. It's just not ready, I don't think, for the test experience, is what they've been saying. So maybe several years, but I don't want to say it never.
Fantastic. Thanks, Diane. That's all the questions so far. And everybody, certainly feel free to continue to put questions in the chat or unmute yourself.
Sounds great. Okay, let's just take a look at where you can find the Connecticut GED testing policies. We have a policies page at GED.com. I've included the link at the bottom of this page. It gives the basic policies, how old you need to be to take the test, the price, the payment, what are the retake policies, how do you go about getting your transcripts and diplomas. On the other page here, it just gives information about how to get in touch with someone in Connecticut about GED policies. So you have a Connecticut page, which is operated by the state. So I included that here for you because if you're new, you may not know exactly where to go for that. This isn't a page that GED manages. It is a state of Connecticut page. So you would have to reach out to the individual listed on this page if you had questions about it. But it does give you a lot of information. You see the menu items there available to you. Just so you know, the state is involved with policy making in terms of the GED test and the high school equivalency diploma. The ED testing service has their own policies, and of course, Pearson, who actually is the technology provider for the test, they handle that part of the policies. So there are a lot of entities involved in policy making here, but essentially the state is the bottom line. They make the determination on eligibility and things like that. Just want to quickly mention some upcoming events so that you're aware of these. The first one is the virtual GED Grad Day celebration. We do not have a date announced for that yet, but it is sometime in May. And if you want to get notified of that date, you can sign up for In Session, and I've included a link to that so that you can just put your email in there and be notified of when GED Grad Day is going to be. It's also, when you sign up for the newsletter, you will also get information when there is a Tuesdays for Teachers webinar, which is our PD that we offer. And you'll also get just general news items from GED testing service. It's not a lot of emails. It's not like you get one a day. You might get one a month or a couple a month emails. But it does allow you to keep yourself in the loop for all things GED. I did include a link here for the Grad Day 2025, so you can have an idea of what it was like. But it is a very well-attended event. It's held in a closed Facebook group, and lots of students attend. We have adult educators attend. There's all kinds of attendance, and it is a great way to celebrate earning a GED diploma. Our annual conference this year is back on the East Coast. It's going to be in Atlanta, July 29th to 31st. The conference registration is open, so I did put a link to that at the bottom of the page. And I also included a link for you to the conference materials from last year. And when I say materials, I mean all of the slide presentations are out there. So if there's something you're looking for information on, you might find it there, and you also get an idea of what we present at the conference. It is well attended by adult educators, GED administrators, even test administrators. So we have corrections sessions. We have all kinds of sessions at the conference. So we'd love to have you attend. And also coming up in September, and you might think, well, that's kind of far off. You want to start thinking about it now, because we know that getting things approved sometimes, whatever you might want to have planned, might take some time to get through an approval process. So I've included some links here for you to take a look at how you might be able to celebrate National GED Day, bring attention to the high school equivalency diploma in Connecticut or in your location to maybe get more students to enroll in your programs. Okay, now to the big new item. We introduced the GED and Me mobile app. I want to say it was 2 conferences ago, and it was just starting out. And the whole idea with having an app was, number one, we know all or almost all adults carry around their cell phone. And if they're carrying around their cell phone, having an app that's easy to use and learn on the go could make a difference and have them actually persist and take that final test. What we found is, you're going to see in the next slides, that it actually helps to get them started too and work their way through all of the tests. But I do want to point out that this was really designed for the independent learner. Okay, someone who might not um, enroll in a local adult ed center. And you might say, well, why are you telling me about it then if it's really not made for my students? Well, I think what you're going to see is that you could use this and encourage them to use this independently outside of your classroom to maybe get them over the confidence levels for some of these tests, or to just keep encouraging them daily. We all know, I know when I'm sitting at a doctor's appointment waiting to get in, I'm on my phone doing something. So, whether they're on a bus or whether they're in an appointment or they're waiting in the pickup line for their child, they might be just sitting there waiting and have something to do with a GED app. So let's take a look at actually what it is. The app includes, and I've got some screenshots here for you so you can see. I think these are, Apple screenshots, but the Android app is very similar. If you were able to compare them side by side, I was told that they look almost exactly the same. There is study support for the student. There are personalized pathways. In other words, it lets them set up a goal for themselves and then puts them on a path towards success. We have a new AI tutor in math. And it also allows them to track their progress, and it encourages them to continue. I think we know most of our students are lacking in confidence in at least one subject area, so they might need the little extra push. So if they turn on notifications, it might remind them to do something or say, hey, why don't you try taking the GED Ready test? It looks like that you might have finished studying for this. Once they take the GED Ready, it might say, oh, you've passed the GED Ready. Let's try to get you in to take the test while everything's fresh in your mind and ready to go. So there's a lot available for them in the app. We did introduce in July the AI math tutor. And I was talking to Amy prior to the webinar this morning, and I don't know about all of you, but I think sometimes when we lack confidence in an area, we don't always want to ask our teachers or even our bosses a question, right? It might you might think it makes you look bad, or it's a stupid question or whatever. I think what we found with this AI math tutor is that students are not afraid to ask it a question. You can see from the data on this screen that we've had lots of interactions since July of 2025 with the AI math tutor. And it has really, I think, helped a student realize that maybe no question is a stupid question. We always tell them that as educators. Your questions are not stupid. I know that all of you try to make them feel as comfortable as possible, but we know that that's sometimes a hard thing to get them to do, to go out of their comfort zone. So you can see here that they're asking questions to the AI math tutor, and you're going to see that it actually adding this and changing some of the process by which they go through the app has actually improved outcomes for these students and also kept them engaged. And I think that's the other thing. I mentioned the number of people that we have in Connecticut who have passed 3 of 4, and we just can't get them to take that last test. We want to get them engaged again. The study loop was introduced in October of 2025, and I don't have time to go through, what exactly is that study loop. So I want to offer to you at this point too, whether you have an Apple device or an Android device, you can go to the appropriate app stores and download the GED app. And you can go ahead and use it on your own to see what that study loop is all about and what the students would see. I think you being familiar with the app would help your students understand why it might be useful to them, and encourage them to use the app. And this is, by the way, I didn't mention this at the beginning, but the app is free. There's no cost for the app. Um, there's no required purchases or anything like that in the app. It does allow them to, purchase GED readies and those kind of things. But for Connecticut, you're not going to need to purchase tests or GED readies. They're going to work with your local program to do that. So um, the app is a no cost situation for your students and for you. If you don't have a student account with GED.com, then you can create an account on the app. We just ask that you use the last name candidate. And I would suggest using a personal email rather than your work email, because if your work email needs to be used for GED purposes, that might conflict with things. So last name candidate, use a personal email, and create yourself an account. Now, if you already have an account at GED.com, you can log in to the GED app on your iPhone or your Android device and go ahead and start using it. So they don't have to sign in with a different email and password. It links directly to their GED.com account. So I hope that makes sense to you, and I really encourage all of you to do that. That way you can see what I'm talking about with the study loop. I think as educators, we already know this. I know when I was, teaching, I taught chemistry for quite a while. Everything needs to be in small packets, right? You don't want to throw everything out there at once. So this bite-sized chunks study loop does increase the engagement of the students with the app.
And I'm going to stop you for a moment right there,
Sure.
Diane, because we do have two questions, and then I just want to check and see if anybody else has any questions. So prior to talking about the app, there was a question about what's the best number to call if a student misses a GED test appointment due to a last minute emergency, such as a child becoming sick. And I do want to just also point out that Laura Lynch is on our webinar this morning. She's our GED processing technician for the state of Connecticut. So she and I will put her email, which is the general GED email. Some of the state specific questions can always go to Laura after the session as well.
Yeah, the best way to take care of any issues with appointments, whether they want to reschedule an appointment or they had a problem with an appointment, is to use the contact us page at GED.com. So if you go to GED.com and you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see there's a contact us. There are several ways to contact us through that. There's a chat feature. The phone number is listed there, and there is also an email form that is there. So anytime, people ask for phone numbers, but sometimes I have found sometimes chat is quicker. So sometimes I will use the chat method. You call the number, you get put on hold. You may not want to wait, where the chat might work quicker. So I always send people to the contact us page, and then the student can choose whether they want to use chat, email, or the phone number.
Great, thank you. And then also, when you started talking about the new app and Sid, the AI math tutor, there was a question about the different chat types of questions. What are those suggested questions like?
I would suggest that you go in and you try it out. But sometimes it's just, can you show me the solution to this problem? So that might be one of them. They're very simple, and many times we have found that the students are choosing those suggested questions, but sometimes they ask their own questions as well. But they're usually general like that, where they will ask, maybe they're working on this problem and they want to, the suggestion question would be, how do you, can you show me how to solve this problem? And then it will run through that. That's just
And
one
then,
example.
yeah, absolutely. And then just to clarify, there's Tom is saying that he sees a few different GED apps. Just to be 100% clear, it is the GED and Me app, correct?
Correct. That
Okay,
is correct.
fantastic. Thank you, Diane.
Thanks, Amy. I do want to mention, what we were talking about AI, and I did not mention this when I was on that particular slide, but I do want you to know that the AI tutor does not go out to the wide internet to find its information, right? We train this AI um, app in the app to only use what we provided it with. So they're not going to go out and find weird things happening. We have those hallucinations with AI sometimes. And if they were to ask a strange question that didn't have to do with GED, it would try to prompt them to come back to GED and the math in the GED. So keep that in mind. I know some of us I know I do worry about using AI very broadly. And we all know that what the answers we get from an AI tutor are only going to be as good as the information that was fed into that tutor. And so know that it's GED testing service that is feeding the tutor. It is not the World Wide Web. I want to make sure I made that clear. All right, this particular slide just gives you an idea of how much the app is really giving them the confidence maybe to take their GED ready or take an actual GED test. You can see that over on the right, which is, I believe, the end of January of this year, that since the core loop has been launched and since SID AI has been launched, we've seen an uptick in the users who are using the app actually taking a GED ready and taking a test. So I think it's important data because even if you have students in your classroom who are, getting their main learning from you, they still have the opportunity to use this free app to maybe help them move along a little bit more quickly or actually feel the confidence that they can actually take a GED ready or a GED test. So I think it does, even though it was designed for the independent learner, I do believe that it could be useful for students to use outside of the classroom when they are engaged with adult education. Right, the last update that we had was in December of this year when Android was launched. And I just want to point out that the reason we started with Apple is that the majority of our users, when they did this, pre-app launch, they found that most GED candidates were using Apple devices. And you can see that's clearly the case here when we look at a period of time between December 26th and January 23rd, which is about a month's time. The number of iOS users is much larger than the Android users. Now, I know that this is only since Android was introduced in December, so maybe we will get more Android use. But I do believe that they were correct in choosing to launch it in Apple first. Now we've got Android. Everybody can now have access to this app, and hopefully we get more Android users moving forward. Let's take a look at some of the data points that I've been provided with here to show you that it is actually pushing more students to take tests and actually getting better results. So the key is to try to get these students to answer questions on the very first day that they download the app. And what we're seeing is since the introduction of the core loop, they've had a better rate of answering questions on that first day. And what they have found is if we can get them started on the first day, we see them staying for longer. In other words, we retain them over time, and therefore they will continue on and take a test and hopefully go ahead and earn the diploma. And that trend continues upward. I like that they provided me with some baseline data here for regular education apps. If you look at the right-hand corner there, a typical day one retention rate for education apps is 13 to 14%, and the typical day seven for all educational apps is 8 to 10. And you can see from July 2024, we were at 21% for day one retention with the GED app, and it's now in November up to 31%. So the whole key with having an app is not just putting an app out there, but having someone use the app, right? And get in there and constantly go in and answer questions. So I think this is a good sign for the app that the design hopefully is going in the right direction. And I'm sure that there will be changes moving forward that hopefully will continue this trend moving upward. I think this goes without saying, and I don't know, it's that thing, what comes first, right? Um, is, is the app actually causing the increased testing and credentialing, or is there confidence level building because of use of the app? So there's a lot of variables here, but what we're seeing is that we are seeing high percentages of students with 10 or more logins who take tests. You can see that large green percentage there on the right. And then we also see a larger number of credentialers. So the app must be doing something. I always fall into this, when you see educational data, I take it with a grain of salt, right? Because the variables are so high. But for some reason, this is what we're seeing. And I think it is important data for you to have and an idea that maybe it's something you want to use or have your students use either in the classroom or outside of the classroom. I'm always interested in what teachers come up with for a way to use it in their classroom. So if you go in and you start looking at the app and you say, oh, I want to use it this way in my classroom, and you've come up with some great ways to use things in the past, please share those with me. I would love to know how you're using the app in your classroom and share that with others so that they could do the same thing. Okay, the AI math tutor has been used by more than 12,000 learners, and we are going to be coming out with an AI tutor for science very soon. So we started with math. Of course, that is, you saw with the data, math is the subject area we need to try to get them to work on the most. Science, of course, had the highest pass rate in Connecticut, but we went ahead and did science as a second AI, and then they're going to be working toward RLA and social studies as well. So I would imagine those AI tutors will come as well. But this just gives you some data about who's using, SID, our AI tutor, and, how it can affect the session length. So we are seeing longer session lengths and larger score increases by those individuals who are actually engaged with the AI tutor. So we're hoping to see that as well. I'm going to be very interested to see what happens when the science one is pushed out and look at a comparison between the math and the science, not just the usage of it, but how does it affect their session lengths and larger score increases as well. So it'll be interesting to see as we push those others out. I already mentioned that mobile app users are taking more ready tests, GED tests, and they are credentialing at higher rates than non-mobile users. But here's the data, just to give you an idea. You can see, you know, the credentialed percentages are not that large yet, but you see some, larger differences between non-mobile users and mobile users that actually take the ready test or the GED test. So I think that's another good reason to have your students use it. Mobile app users are seen to have higher first test pass rates across all subject areas, about 3% on average. And you can see from the data there what they are. So I think that's another thing to look at is this may be giving them, you have those students who are on the cusp of passing. Using the app may help them to get over that threshold. I mean, we've seen that with the use of GED Flash. So each student, I think, learns differently, and sometimes it takes that one thing to push them over the pass mark. So in this case, it does seem to be working for them. Okay, what's next with the app?
I'm actually going to
We're
stop you
looking.
there, Diane, if you don't
Sure.
mind for a moment, because we have some really great questions in the chat. So before we go any further, I do want to address some of those. So quickly, in terms of the app, I know it's more designed for the students, but are there any teacher features that are available on the app?
There are not features within the app for specifically for teachers, but we do have a flyer available to educators, which I'll mention shortly, that they can download, and it has some ideas for using the app in the classroom. As I said, it's so new. I'm really looking toward all of you as educators to come up with your great ideas like you always do in using different tools that are presented to you. So please feel free to reach out to me and share those things with me. But I do have a flyer that I'll show you in a little bit here.
Fantastic. Mark, I don't want to put you on the spot, but you had a really good question and sort of comment. I didn't know if you'd be open to just quickly unmuting and discussing your question.
Of course. I have recently downloaded the GED and Me app, and within 5 minutes of starting my studying path as a student, I noticed that I was prompted to take a GED Ready test. So my first real question, Diane, is there an appropriate time for students to be taking their first GED Ready test? I'm a registrar in Connecticut. I've had students take their GED practice at their ready test first and be successful, and then they kind of just do their thing. I've had others take their test and get a red score, maybe like a 132 or a 129, and then they disappear. They get their first taste of it. The water's too deep, and I can't get them back.
Yeah, it's a fine line, isn't it? And I don't know that I think the idea in the app is that since we're really looking at it being more for the independent learner, that pushing them to take the GED Ready would help to prescribe for them what they need to study. I do want to mention that we are right now looking at that. You know how the GED Ready score is red, yellow, and green? They're looking at phasing that out. Just for the reason that you're saying, Mark, that sometimes people see red, and what does red mean? Stop.
Yep.
And that's exactly what they do. They stop. So they are working on that right now, and I would expect that within the next probably 4 to 6 months, we're going to see a change in how that's presented to students and hopefully making it more encouraging them in a sense that, okay, you're at this score, this is what you need to do to get yourself ready for the test. It doesn't mean that you can't do this. You can do this. Let's build your confidence. Let's get you to the point where you can actually pass the actual GED test. So I'm with you on that, Mark. It's a tough call. But I think that's why the app is pushing them to taking a GED ready. Is it if we're looking at an independent learner who doesn't you have to have a base point, right? And I think that's why many times we push it in as an educator in a prep center. We want to see where they're at. If we can find out where you're at, we can prepare you for what you need to do. But I don't think students are taking it that way. Hopefully, we're coming up with a better way of presenting that to them. But I'm with you. Some students, they just do it. Other students, they see red and say, this isn't for me. I wish I had a solution for you, but I don't. We're working on it, though.
Thank
I
you,
hope
Mark,
that helps.
for being willing to unmute and ask that.
Yeah.
Jane was asking, she knows that the majority of the students, of course, that are utilizing this are in the GED program, but she didn't know if you would recommend the app for any ABE students that are making strides.
I think we've seen in the past where ABE students, are their whole idea is to work toward getting a GED. So I think it would be up to you as an educator to determine whether that might be something that they could start using now. It's a tough call. Depends on where they are in their ABE journey, I think. But I think you as teachers know your students the best. So I would gauge it based on your students. And I would be interested if you are going to use it and you have used it, how did it go? I don't think we've done any kind of, well, like I said, it's really been for the independent learner. We're now seeing that there have been great results, and we want to push it out to you as educators and see where we can go from there. So I would be interested to know if you decide to use it with ABE students, how that goes.
Well, can I add something to your answer?
Sure.
I just was wondering, I realize all of that, the higher they up on, closer they are, I get that. But I didn't know what the experience has been. I don't want to discourage them when they come and they say, geez, I don't know any of this stuff. Or, oh, I know more than I thought I did. And, I'm going to keep at it. I don't know how many, or do you have any statistics on that?
No, I don't have any. And I know they haven't really looked at that because, again, we've been working mostly from the independent learner side of things, not those enrolled in adult ed programs, whether it be ABE or GED prep.
Okay.
So we don't have
Okay.
data. All we have is data for all users right now.
Right.
And I'm sure some of them are attending classes in
Yeah.
addition to using the app. But I think they
Yeah.
have found that the majority of them are independent learners. They are
Yeah.
not attending adult ed.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I
I'm
get it.
sorry. I don't.
Okay, thanks.
Sure thing. Thank you for the question.
Thanks, Jane. Tom, I know
Yep.
you put a question in there about is Spanish available in the GED and Me app, and I do see on this slide that it looks like that is going to be discussed coming up. So I don't know, Diane, if you want to jump on that answer now or
I can. They are working on the full Spanish app. I did want to mention, I believe SID AI does allow the candidate to choose a language. So you might want to try that out. And it's not just Spanish and English with the SID AI math tutor. I think we all have found that sometimes a student is more comfortable in their own native language, especially with a topic that is difficult for them. So having it, even though we may not, offer anything but Spanish and English for the test, sometimes the basic learning sometimes being presented in their own language will help them to understand better when they have to go to take it in English or Spanish. So I do know that's available now in the AI, but I know the Spanish app is coming soon. I can't give you a date on that or anything, but these are the coming soon items that I was given, where they're going to be able to have SID AI for science, more content and practice, and also they're going to be presenting a web app. So that's something good in addition to Spanish. So I hope that helps a little bit, but I don't have any definitives on Spanish.
We'll just have to wait and see.
Yes.
And just clarification, students can take a GED ready test in any subject on their phone through the app?
You can't actually take the test on the app. Okay, they would have to actually they're working on that too, but it's not in the coming soon features. But I know it's something they're talking about. Right now, the GED ready test and the GED test are not, can't take it on your phone. Even on the online proctor test, you have to do that via the computer.
Mark put a really great item in the chat as well. He mentioned the GED Ready scores and the score report are linked to the app. The app takes the Ready score as input and customizes the learning path to align with the score report suggestions. So again, just reiterating some of what the app can do.
Yes, thank you, Mark.
Yeah, and then just a request for a feature. If a student notices that the material is over their heads, can a feature be added with a link of the local adult education center?
That's a good point. I will definitely bring that up to them so that it kind of like we've done on the GED.com account, right? There's many ways for them to get in touch with their local adult ed provider. I think that's a good point, and I will bring that up to the team.
Thank you. Back to you, Diane.
Right. Thanks, Amy. All right, let's see here. We're just about done with the app. Here's the resources that I was talking about. There is an educator flyer. You see it's a two-page flyer just giving you some ideas to using it in your classroom or tips to use it. And then we also have a mobile app flyer that you could print and put up in your classroom or use it in your classroom in any way that you needed to maybe get your students to download the app. But there are QR codes on this slide to do that. So like I said, there's not a lot out there for educators on this yet, but I think more than anything in the past, GED testing service has taken those ideas from all of you in the field. So when you come up with something, I would love to know how you were using it. Okay, I'm gonna switch gears here and take a look at the GED test prep coaching program. I've talked a lot about, having confidence or motivation to move forward, to take a test. And I think that's what this program, which was started several years ago, but I think it gets lost in all the different things and tools we have out there on our website. It kind of gets lost out there. So I wanted to make sure that you were all aware this was out there for you. It is a fifth theory education program. So any of you who are familiar with them, or you could take a look at what they offer as well. But it is actually been put into place in terms of it's been customized for GED learners. Let's just put it that way. Okay, why did they come up with this and why did they put this out there for educators to use? This is a tool so that you can help your students go beyond academic preparation, right? We all know that, yeah, we want to teach them the math concepts and the RLA concepts and all of that, right? The actual content. But sometimes we find that what's holding them back, you see them doing very well in their classroom experience, and then they go to take the test and they score, in that 140 to 145 range, and they can't seem to pass the test, whether it's test anxiety, or they lack confidence on the day of the test. There's all kinds of different things that go into why a candidate can't get past that 145 mark, even though you see in the classroom that they are ready to take the test. And there's that lovely red, yellow, and green screenshot at the bottom, which they're working at changing so that we don't have that red stop zone down there. But this is what we have right now, and we're trying to give you some tools in your toolbox to help your students gain motivation, confidence, that kind of thing. Things that are outside of the academics. They ran a pilot, and as I said, they did customize it for GED. So they looked at the accessibility, the number of items. They actually had students test this out. They did a GED branded report and a self-coaching guide. And they did find that 40% of GED participants were below average preparation and or readiness. And that'll make more sense as I go through this so you can see what's going on here. They did do a phase 2 of the pilot and research. They created a webinar, which I'll share with you. And they let learners and educators share their responses with how this worked for them. Finally, what they found was that educators and advisors were able to successfully interpret the report that they were given after their students took the assessment. They were able to find out new information about their students that they may not have been able to gain otherwise. And they were able to create personalized study plans based on these soft skills, these motivation skills, the confidence building skills, the test anxiety skills that we all kind of try to give to our students. I know I did when I was teaching at high school. You don't want them to not pass a test because they're worried about taking the test, that kind of thing. You want to prepare them for the test, but you want to have the confidence to move forward. The observations of the students are on this screen. I'm going to kind of go quickly here because we are getting close to 10 o'clock, but I'm going to keep moving along here. It did allow the student to have an honest conversation with their teacher about what their classroom experience was versus their testing experience. So it opened up the communication with their teacher when they went through this process. Here's just a quick overview of what the test prep coaching program is. You become certified as a coach. It's a actual short webinar. I'll share it with you in a minute. The students complete the assessment, which is about 52 questions. It doesn't take that long to complete. The student receives the report. There's coaching available to educators with the coach's guide. And hopefully we end up with improved student test mastery and awareness so that the tester can then be successful when they go to take the GED test. I'm going to run through some of these very quickly because I've got several slides that go into the details of this program, but it just gives you an idea here. We're looking at test preparation mindset and test readiness mindset. And then you see we've got motivation, responsibility, confidence, resiliency. You see here, we're not talking about do they know, how to find the slope of a line in math. We're looking at these much softer skills here and maybe giving them the tools that they need to make their testing experience better and therefore being able to show what they know about the subject much better and come out with a passing score. These are the type of charts that you'd be getting in the student report. And you can see here this particular one shows test preparation at 82, but test readiness at 21. So then you can get into even more detail with these charts. Now, this particular chart, you see the person is definitely motivated and is showing responsibility toward getting ready to test, but their confidence level and their resiliency is very low. So maybe those are areas that you as a teacher could help them work on. Here's just another one of those charts. It goes into a little bit more detail. And then you're given in that report that you get for the student, it gives you some actions. And those actions can help your students to be more confident, be more motivated, be more responsible, all of those soft skill areas, and gives you ideas of how to coach them in that coaching document that I mentioned. If you're interested in this, I've put a link at the bottom of this. Again, this is all free. There's no charge to you or the student. So if you have one of those students that keeps testing and they're just below the passing range, you might want to look at this. It might get them over the pass line if you're able to help them with that. So it's another tool in your toolbox. You don't want to necessarily use this with all of your students, but for those students who you think are falling into that test range, and you've had them happen, I'm sure quite often, where they go into test, they get the same score just below 145 every time. Maybe this is something that could help them. Your training involves 45 minutes. There are 6 modules. They are not long modules at all. The whole thing is 45 minutes long. So it will show you and explain to you in much more detail than I had today time to do. And you can find out more about that test prep program and how to use the reports and all the materials that we provide to you. Just so you know, it does give you questions to guide your understanding, but those are not, they're not, it's not scored. It's not like you have to get a certain percentage in order to gain access to the program or anything else. It's just to help you to understand how you're doing and if you understand what's going on in the modules. There are a lot of downloadable resources on the page that I had linked on the first screen. You've got the reference guide, the sample student report, some case studies, and also some administration site instructions. That's the site that you would use to assign the assessment to your student so that you can see where they fall in all of those areas. There's also an FAQ on that page to help you. So there are all kinds of helpful information there. But if you ever need assistance, you can always reach out to me. If I don't have the answer, I can get the answer for you. You can sign up for free to get access to the administrator site, which allows you to assign an assessment to your students. So if it's something that you're interested in, it is there. It's there for you for free. Any questions on that?
I had one question come in asking, are the student assessments found on GED.com?
No, they are not. No, so you actually have to sign up for the administrative site. So this is somewhere else. I'm not sure why they did it that way, Amy, but I'm sure they had a reason. But yeah, you actually have to, it's not at GED.com.
Thank you. And we have about 10 minutes left, so you're still good to go, Diane.
All right, thanks. I'll try to get through this and I'll let you look at the other slides at the end, which are just a review of some of the other things that we have available. Now, this particular assessment, the Learning Preferences Assessment, is available at GED.com. Okay, so there is a student assessment. It takes about 10 minutes to complete. I gave an example question at the bottom of this slide. I took it again recently just to make sure they hadn't made any changes or anything like that to it. It does take about 10 minutes. It's very quick to do. And like I said, your students can do this at GED.com. So when they sign into their account, there's a tile there that will allow them to go ahead and take this. I believe it's available in the study tab. They will get a report. This is the report I got after I took it, that I was a visual or spatial learner. And it gives them some tips right away. But we also have educator resources for you. You can actually, if you have GED Manager access, you can see what their learning preference is. And that's what that first graphic is on the left of the slide. It shows you there, that was the one I did. So I was a visual spatial learner. And we have this document, this Learning Styles ebook, to help you help your students so that you can help them learn to their best learning style, right? We all know we learn differently. So again, this is another tool for those students who you think are kind of caught in a rut and can't seem to get them out of it. What might be the best way to present information to them, or for them to have a better way to learn? So really, you've got the app, you've got this, and you also have the previous one that I went through, which gives you about the soft skills. Yes, they all take time. Would I use them all with all of your students? No. The app, yeah, I would probably suggest that all students use the app, but these other two, you would have to decide whether you think they might help your students. All right, so those were the three big things I wanted to share with you. These next ones I know you've seen before, so it's 10:07 by my count, so I'm gonna go through these very fast. But you'll have the slides and you'll be able to go to them and find them. So I think it's worth having them in here. There are a lot of aids for successful test taking that we have available. There's information about accommodations. Again, I include a link for you at the bottom of this page. Even links to how to apply for accommodations with a PDF. So if you're having a student who doesn't know how to do that, you can get them help for that. Also want to mention that we do have some universal access features that are available on the test, and that's also available for you on the accommodations page, even though they are available to everyone. So it's worth going through these with your students. All of your students have access to these universal access features. So if you need to change the text size, they like to highlight, or they like a different screen color combination, they can do that. The other thing I point out on this page is the comfort aid list. So you might want to take a look at that on what might be available for them to take into the test center while they're taking their test. If you don't already use this in your classroom, I really suggest you do so. This is the computer-based test tutorial. It is available out on the educator site and also through their student account at GED.com. Just has them get familiar with the features that are available to them. These are the ones that I had mentioned. Does have a flag for review as well, so they can practice with those things. So those things are all available at the student and the educator site. At the educators and admins website, which you get to by going to GED.com, select educators and admins from the upper right-hand corner, and you're going to get a menu of options. And I took those menu items and I clicked on them, and I show you everything that's available out there to you right now. So I think it's important for you to know what's available out there, and you really just have to go out there and look around. Now, if you can't find something you were looking for, or you know you had seen something in the past, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to find it for you and get you to that location. You see there are no arrows for corrections, accommodations, and news, and that's because those go directly to those sites. Lots of free classroom materials, all kinds of tutorials, practice tests, study guides, reference sheets, extended response tools and practice. We've got extended response videos available for you out there. They're also available on the student account. Lots of teaching resources, lots of professional development. Our Tuesdays for Teachers series is recorded and everything is posted on this website. Here's just a close-up of one. They're really great if you're looking for professional development for yourself to help your students. It's a great place to go. And there are lots of them. There's a toolkit, and look at that, and I'm at 10:11. I probably could have slowed down a little bit, but not much. Well, I want to thank all of you for attending, and I'll take any other questions, Amy, that people might have had.
And in the chat, but I would certainly encourage anybody now, if you have some questions, we do have a few more minutes to unmute, ask those questions. I am going to say just quickly, we do during our annual disability training with our DCPs, which are disability contact persons in your agencies. Sabrina Mancini does go over some of the accommodations specific to GED. So you can utilize your DCP at your agency. If you do need some support, you can reach out to Sabrina and or Laura Lynch. And I have put the general GED email in the chat, which I will reiterate as well. But again, too, this was all recorded. Slides will be coming to you. So if there's anything that you missed, a lot of great information, a lot of new stuff. I see the possibility of a lot more information coming out to you in the future, just to support what you're doing with the students. Yes, Sarah. So all the slides and the recordings will be available to everybody after GED Day. I just asked to give me a day or two to get that put together. So probably beginning of next week. If you don't mind waiting until after the weekend to have access to everything. Any other questions? Again, certainly feel free. We have a few more minutes and we'll stay on. And I would like to thank Diane for taking the time. I know it can be difficult sometimes. You're down in Florida. We are excited to see you again. She'll be at CASE as she is every year. So certainly you can grab her when you see her there in March as well, if you are going to be attending.
I'm looking forward to seeing you all. It's right around the corner.
Our next session will begin at 10:30. It's Sensational Science Instruction. That will be with Stephen Schmidt. You are certainly welcome to continue to register for other sessions. I believe all the links were sent out this morning. So when you click on a link, if you weren't originally registered, it'll just have you register super quick through that link. But if you need any support, feel free to email me and I will put that quickly in the chat as well. And again, thank you, Diane. This was wonderful. A lot of great new stuff coming up.
Thank you all. I appreciate you coming and great questions you've had today. And please feel free to reach out to me with any other questions you might have. I don't always know the answer, but I can usually find someone who does know the answer for you.
As we said, we'll stay on for a few more minutes if you have any questions. Otherwise, hopefully we'll see you at the next session or another session throughout the day. And if not, have a great Friday and a wonderful weekend.